The geography of Malaysia deals with the tropical climate of Malaysia, a country located in Southeast Asia. There are two distinct parts to this country, being Peninsular Malaysia to the west and East Malaysia to the east. Peninsular Malaysia is located south of Thailand, north of Singapore and east of the Indonesian island of Sumatra. East Malaysia comprises most of the northern part of Borneo and shares borders with Brunei and Indonesia. Climate. Located near the equator, Malaysia's climate is categorized as equatorial, being hot and humid throughout the year. The average rainfall is 250 centimeters a year and the average temperature is 27 degrees Celsius. The climates of the peninsula and the east differ, as the climate on the peninsula is directly affected by wind from the mainland, as opposed to the more maritime weather of the east. Malaysia is exposed to the El Niño effect, which reduces rainfall in the dry season. Climate change is likely to have a significant effect on Malaysia, increasing sea levels and rainfall, increasing flooding risks and leading to large droughts. Malaysia faces two monsoon wind seasons, the southwest monsoon from late May to September, and the northeast monsoon from October to March. The northeast monsoon brings in more rainfall compared to the southwest monsoon, originating in China and the North Pacific. The southwest monsoon originates from the deserts of Australia. March and October form transitions between the two monsoons. Local climates are affected by the presence of mountain ranges throughout Malaysia, and climate can be divided into that of the highlands, the lowlands, and coastal regions. The coasts have a sunny climate, with temperatures ranging between 23 and 32 degrees Celsius, and rainfall ranging from 10 to 30 centimeters a month. The lowlands have a similar temperature, but follow a more distinctive rainfall pattern and show very high humidity levels. The highlands are cooler and wetter, and display a greater temperature variation. A large amount of cloud cover is present over the highlands, which have humidity levels that do not fall below 75%. The highest temperature was recorded at Shaping, Perlis on the 9th of April 1998 at 40.1 degrees Celsius. The lowest temperature was recorded at Cameron Highlands on the 1st of February 1978 at 7.8 degrees Celsius. The unofficial lowest temperature is -4 degrees Celsius in December, recorded in Gunung Kinabalu. The highest rainfall recorded in a day was 608 mm in Kota Baru, Kelantan on the 6th of January 1967. The highest rainfall recorded in a year was 5,687 mm at Sandakan, Sabah in 2006. Meanwhile, the lowest rainfall recorded in a year was 1,151 mm at Tawau, Sabah in 1997. The wettest place in Malaysia is Kuching, Sarawak, with an average rainfall of 4,128 mm with 247 days of rain a year. The driest place in Malaysia is in Chaping, Perlis, with average rainfall of only 1,746 mm a year. Geology. Malaysia is located on the Sunda Shelf, and is tectonically inactive. The oldest rocks in the country date from 540 million years ago, and are mostly sedimentary. The most common form of rock is limestone, formed during the Paleozoic era. Limestone laid down in East Malaysia during the Tertiary period has since eroded, and such erosion forms basins of sedimentary rocks rich in oil and natural gas. The mountain ranges in Malaysia were formed through orogenesis beginning in the Mesozoic era. The total land area of Malaysia is 329,613 square kilometers, the 66th largest country in the world in terms of area. It is the only country to contain land on both mainland Asia and the Malay archipelago. Peninsular Malaysia makes up 100 132,090 square kilometers, or 39.7% of the country's land area, while East Malaysia covers 198,847 square kilometers, or 60.3%. For the total land area, 1,200 square kilometers or 0.37% is made up of water such as lakes, rivers, or other internal waters. Malaysia has a total coastline of 4,675 kilometers, and Peninsular Malaysia has 2,068 kilometers, while East Malaysia has 2,607 kilometers of coastline. Malaysia has the 29th longest coastline in the world. The two distinct parts of Malaysia, separated from each other by the South China Sea, share a largely similar landscape in that both West and East Malaysia feature coastal plains rising to hills and mountains. Peninsular Malaysia covers the southern half of the Malay Peninsula and extends 740 kilometers from north to south, and its maximum width is 322 kilometers. It is mountainous, with more than half of it over 150 meters above sea level. About half of Peninsular Malaysia is covered by granite and other igneous rocks. A third more is covered by stratified rocks older than the granite, and the remainder is covered by alluvium. Harbours are only available on the peninsula's western side, and the most fertile land occurs when river valleys flow out to the sea. The coastal plains bordering the Straits of Malacca are the most densely populated areas of Malaysia and contains Malaysia's capital, Kuala Lumpur. East Malaysia on the island of Borneo has a coastline of 2,607 kilometers. It is divided between coastal regions, hills and valleys, and a mountainous interior. There are only two major cities, Kuching and Kota Kinabalu. Much of southern Sarawak is coastal lowlands, which shifts to a series of plateaus going north, ending in the mountainous regions of Sabah. Mountain ranges. The highest mountain range in Malaysia is the Krok range in Sabah, which divides the state in half. This range includes Mount Kinabalu, the highest mountain in the country, as well as Mount Tambu Yukon, the third highest in the country. Mount Kinabalu, at 4,095.2 meters, is the tallest mountain in Malaysia and is protected as Kinabalu National Park, a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Mountain ranges in the east tend to follow north-south and northeast-southwest paths, and the highest ranges form the border between Malaysia and Indonesia. The mountains contain many jagged limestone peaks. The Trusmadi Range, also in Sabah, houses Mount Trusmadi, the second highest peak in Malaysia. Bombalai Hill in Sabah is the only active volcano in Malaysia. Peninsular Malaysia contains numerous mountain ranges running parallel from north to south along the peninsula. The main mountain range is the Titiwangsa Mountains, which divides the peninsula between its east and west coasts. It houses Mount Korbu, the second highest peak in the peninsula. These mountains are heavily forested, are mainly composed of granite. The range is the origin of some of Peninsular Malaysia's river systems. To the east of this range is the Bintang Range. The highest peak in the peninsula is Mount Tufhan, located on the Tufhan Range. Forests. Malaysian forests can be categorized as tropical rainforest. Approximately 58.2% of Malaysian land is covered by forest. A large amount of lowland forest present below an altitude of 760 meters. East Malaysia, like most of Borneo, was formerly covered with Borneo lowland rainforests with over 2,000 tree species. However, much of it has been cleared due to the increase in logging since the 1960s and the increase of shifting cultivation. Over 80% of Sarawak's forests have been felled, and the logging throughout East Malaysia has polluted waterways, increased erosion, and damaged agriculture. Some state governments have now taken measures to halt the degradation of the rainforest. Malaysia's rainforests are made of a variety of types, mainly dipterocarp, swamps, and mangroves. The majority of the forest is dipterocarp forests. Dipterocarp species are centered in Malaysia. There are over 1,425 square kilometers of mangroves in Malaysia. Some areas are designated as forest reserves, state parks, or national parks. The management of these reserves is under control of the Department of Wildlife and National Park, the Forest Department of Sarawak, the Sabah Forestry Department, Sabah Foundation, and Sabah Parks. As of 2000, there are 2 World Heritage Sites under the natural category: Kinabalu National Park and Gunung Malou National Park. Caves. Numerous caves run through the peninsula and the east, due to the karst landscape caused by water eroding limestone. The Malou Caves in East Malaysia are the largest caves in the world. They are located between the Peninsular Range in Brunei, and form a major tourist attraction. At 700 meters long and 70 meters high, the Sarawak Chamber is the largest cave chamber in the world. Other famous caves are the 1.6 kilometers Deer Cave and Langs Cave. Islands. Malaysia contains numerous islands, the largest of which is Bangor Island in Sabah, which has an area of 440.7 square kilometers. It is followed by Bertrut Island in Sarawak, Langkawi in Kedah, and Penang Island in Penang. The largest island shared with another country is Borneo, followed by Sabatik Island. In addition, Malaysia lies within the world's coral reef distribution. The reefs can be usually found around islands such as Sipitun Island, Swallow Reef, and Redang Island. Sipitun Island, an underwater mountain, is Malaysia's only oceanic island. Extreme points. The southernmost point of Malaysia is located in the district of Sirian in Sarawak. Tanjung Piai on the southern tip of Johor is the southernmost point in Peninsula, and thus of the whole of continental Eurasia. The easternmost point is found on the tip of Dent Peninsula in Lafad Datu district in Sabah. The northernmost point is found on the northern tip of Bangor Island. The westernmost point is found on the western tip of Pulau Langkawi in Kedah. Bodies of water. Between Peninsular Malaysia and East Malaysia is the South China Sea, the largest body of water around Malaysia. Facing the western coast of Peninsular Malaysia there is the Straits of Malacca towards the south, and the Andaman Sea towards the north. The Strait of Malacca, lying between Sumatra and Peninsular Malaysia, is arguably the most important shipping lane in the world. These seas are marginal seas of the Indian Ocean. Off the east coast of Peninsular Malaysia is the South China Sea, while a small part in the north lies within the Gulf of Thailand. These form part of the marginal seas of the Pacific Ocean. The Straits of Johor off the south of Peninsula acts as a maritime border of Malaysia and Singapore. In East Malaysia, the western coasts of Sabah and Sarawak faces the South China Sea. The northeast coast of Sabah faces the Sulu Sea, while the southeast coast of Sabah faces the Celebes Sea. Malaysia claims 12 nanometers as its territorial waters, which extend into the Coral Triangle. It also claims 200 nanometers of exclusive economic zone. In addition, Malaysia claims 200 meters in the depth of the continental shelf to the depth of exploration within the area below the South China Sea known as Sunderland. The territorial claim for the Straits of Malacca is shared between Malaysia and Indonesia in accordance to a treaty signed in 1970 known as the Treaty between the Republic of Indonesia and Malaysia on determination of boundary lines of territorial waters of the two nations at the Strait of Malacca. Lakes. The Beira Lake in Pahang is one of the largest lakes in Malaysia, and one of the only two natural lakes in Malaysia with Tashik Chini. Pedu Lake is a 12 km long lake located 5 km from the Malaysian-Thai border, and Kenya Lake is the largest artificial lake in Southeast Asia. Rivers. There are many systems of rivers found around Malaysia. The longest is the Rajang River in Sarawak, with a length of 760 kilometers. The second longest is the Kanabatangan River in Sabah, with a length of 560 kilometers. The longest river in the Peninsular Malaysia is Pahang River, with a length of 435 kilometers. Wildlife. Malaysia is a mega-diverse country, with a high number of species and high levels of endemism. These forests contain the Rafflesia, the largest flower in the world. The clearing of the Borneo lowland rainforests has caused wildlife to retreat into the upland rainforests inland. Natural disasters. Malaysia's geographical location protects the country from most major natural disasters. It is located on a seismically stable plate that minimizes direct risks of earthquakes and volcanoes, is partially protected from tsunamis by surrounding land masses, and is a rare target for typhoons due to its strategic location outside tropical cyclone basins. However, the country's tropical climate opens the country to the risk of flooding, landslides and prolonged droughts. Flooding. With 189 water basins and an average rainfall of over 2,000 to 4,000 millimeters per year, Malaysia is prone to riverine, muddy floods that range from hours-long flash floods to prolonged flooding on flat, low-lying land along major tributaries and main stems. There have been 15 instances of major flooding in Malaysia since 1926. Flooding has been a major concern in recent decades due to rapid development in river catchment areas that has led to increased surface and river runoffs, increased sediment build-up in rivers, and a higher risk of overflowing rivers. The 2006 and 2007 flooding in Johor has resulted in loss of room 1.5 billion and 18 lives, in addition to the temporary displacement of 110,000 people. Seismic activity. Malaysia is largely seismically stable, being situated entirely on the Sun, the tectonic plate, between two major boundaries of the Australian Plate and Eurasian Plate in the west of Peninsular Malaysia, and the Philippine Sea Plate and Eurasian Plate at Borneo on Malaysia, while Peninsular Malaysia is more accustomed to only light tremors caused by quakes along the Sumatran Islands of Indonesia, generated predominantly by the Great Sumatran Fault and Sunda megathrust. The Bornean states, particularly Sabah, is at risk of more moderate interplate and intraplate earthquakes due to its closer proximity to the Ring of Fire, with record earthquakes in the country occurring in the state in 1976 and 2015 at an average of 6.0 MW. As is with Singapore, the effects of tremors are also felt significantly on skyscrapers common in populated centers in Malaysia. Interest towards tsunami risks to Malaysia has also heightened since the 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake. Although the western coast of Peninsular Malaysia was largely shielded by the Sumatran island from the full effects of waves generated by the earthquake, weakly deflected tsunami waves led to damage and casualties along the northwestern coast of Peninsular Malaysia, affecting coastal Perlis, Kedah and Penang. The disaster also highlights the risk of further tsunamis that may strike open coasts in direct line of undersea faults. Human geography. Peninsular Malaysia is more populated than East Malaysia, where 79.2% of the population lives in the peninsula. In 2002, 59% of Malaysian population lived in urban areas, while the rest live in rural areas. The largest city is Kuala Lumpur, with a population of 1.89 million people in the city, and about 7 million in the metropolitan area known as Klang Valley. Other major cities include Georgetown, Johor Bahru, Ipoh, Kuching, and Kota Kinabalu. Political geography. Malaysia is divided into 13 states and 3 federal territories. 11 states and 2 federal territories are found in Peninsular Malaysia, while 2 states and 1 federal territory are found in East Malaysia. The states are further divided into administrative districts. In Sabah and Sarawak, they are first divided into divisions, then further divided into districts. There are separate subdivisions for electoral districts for polling purposes. International borders between Malaysia and Indonesia, Thailand, Singapore and Brunei are defined mostly by geological features such as the Perlis River and Golok River between Malaysia and Thailand, Straits of Johor between Malaysia and Singapore, and Pagulayan Canal between Malaysia and Brunei. However, borders that extend to the seas are defined by agreements such as Straits Settlement and Johor Territorial Waters Agreement of 1927, which defines Malaysia and Singapore water borders. Border disputes. Malaysia's land borders are well established. The border with Thailand was established in 1909 when Siam ceded Kedah, Kelantan, Perlis and Terengganu to the British. Maritime border disputes between Brunei and Malaysia and a Bruneian claim on Limbang, Sarawak were resolved in an exchange of letters between the two countries on 16 March 2009 after 20 years of negotiations. Malaysia and Indonesia have some overlapping maritime claims, notably in the area around Sabah. An ongoing series of meetings to resolve these claims has produced 16 border agreements. Malaysia and Singapore also have disputes concerning some maritime borders. The Philippines has a dormant claim to the eastern part of the Malaysian state of Sabah. Malaysia is also involved in a dispute involving Vietnam, Brunei, the People's Republic of China, the Philippines, and the Republic of China, concerning the Spratly Islands in the South China Sea.